we want to stress that my client says even as they were going to play along, there was also somewhat a possibility that these persons were not what the intelligence thought they were. So you would find that in some respects there would have been some element of doubt at some interactions as to, are these people what we think they are and we are playing along, or they are genuine. So there will be actions by my client in the documentary which might not be consistent with the explanation that he was playing along and acting along. This is the point that we wish to make. There was some element of doubt in some respects, but largely and almost mainly the actions in the documentary are consistent with a classified national intelligence operation which was meant to see how far they would go. Now, what then happens? So in that documentary, all the things that are said, no one was phoned. I'll give that as an example. So there was no call to the First Lady, for example. There was no call to Henrietta Lushwaya. These were decoys that were put in an intelligence operation. So even the statements that you hear, they are not real. That's the explanation coming from my client. If you were to put it very boldly or mildly, but in a mild way, they were acting along. It's unfortunate that, according to the version we are putting, it's unfortunate that it is national security issues that are then played in the public because of the agenda of these people, which agenda then forces issues that ordinarily would not be put on the table to be put on the table. So I'm going to check what are called security checks. Who are they and so on. And these security checks are to be undertaken through the national intelligence framework of this country. So the intelligence framework of our country will be checked. The intelligence advised my client that they had serious doubts about the persons, they had serious suspicions about the persons, and that it was not advisable right at that stage for those persons to meet the president. In fact, national intelligence discovered that those persons intended something very dangerous, not just to the country but to the president, that their aim was at the president and whatever. So the position which was discussed, this interaction then led to what we are calling a classified national intelligence assignment, which meant that a decision was taken with the intelligence authorities that my client would play along. He would not cancel his interactions with these persons. He would meet them and meet them as if he was going to make arrangements for them to meet the president and for them to be able to do investments in Zimbabwe. So it was in the context of a national intelligence operation. Zimbabwe wanted to gain intelligence out of it, wanted to see how far its enemies could go and what their agendas were. And these were issues to do with that. That is the context. Now, I should emphasize at this stage that even as I'll give you a few more details in respect of that I explain what my client is saying in respect of what is coming out of the documentary, that ordinarily these things are not told to the world. These things are not told to the public. But because of the intensity of the Al Jazeera documentary and its implications on the integrity of the operations of governmental systems in this country, my client felt obliged that he has a moral obligation at least to give an indication of what was going on. So, which is his involvement in the issues that have come out of the Al Jazeera process. Now, I want that to be clear. I will not be handing out the statements I'm reading from. These are just notes. So you have to rely on what we are saying. The position is this: as soon as my client was appointed, it was made known to the whole world that he would be the president's ambassador at large. There were several people in Europe and other parts of the world that wanted to do investment in the country with his facilitation. That is a fact. And then among those persons were people that were genuine and those that were not genuine. But he has facilitated these investment opportunities. Sometime in 2021, when the president was attending COP26 in Scotland, there were a group of persons who now appear and feature in the Al Jazeera documentary, who approached persons working with my client. My client has an office as an ambassador at large, so he has a team of people, a few people that are his assistants. So through one of his assistants, these people approached my client wanting to see the president and have an investment discussions with the president of Zimbabwe. These people were already in London and the president was attending COP26 in Scotland. When my client was approached by one of his teammates, he made the usual checks with his subordinate to find out how much they knew of these people. He was advised by one of the person involved that they had been in touch with them for a period in excess of 2 years or whatever. They knew them very well. On that basis, my client then thought he could facilitate an interaction between those persons and the president.